At first, it was just light. Soft, golden, curated like everything my parents do. The crystal glasses, the string quartet, the 28th floor view of New York looking like a simulation. It was the kind of party where nothing real was supposed to happen. Daniel held my hand, steady. I thought I brought him here to anchor me, but I had no idea he'd be the one to cut the rope. There were 50 guests, maybe more, academics, diplomats, influencers, people who said things like, "What a beautiful narrative you've built with your daughter." And my mom, Leona Marek, would smile that practiced smile and say, "We believe in giving displaced children a voice." She's good at that, turning war into dinner conversation, turning my story into an exhibit she could walk people through with hors d'oeuvres in one hand. I was 8 when I first noticed. The way she spoke about my trauma like a sponsorship deal. But tonight was about the engagement, not the backstory. The first toast had been made. Daniel had thanked everyone, hugged my father, even smiled at my mom. And then she brought out the thing that always comes out when she wants to remind everyone what a miracle I am. The slideshow, curated, chronological, photos from the moment they found me, to birthdays in Martha's Vineyard, to me holding a science fair, ribbon with a caption that read, "Our brave little survivor, now a robotics champion." The guests clapped, Victoria beamed, and beside me Daniel's hand tightened. "Don't you see it?" he whispered. I looked at him, confused. "See what?" I whispered back. He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the screen, and I followed his gaze. To an image of me, 6 years old, smiling at a lake. I'd seen that photo 100 times, but now something felt wrong. The shadows didn't match, the lighting was off. My smile too symmetrical, too frozen, too identical to the next one and the next. Like someone had copied and pasted my face onto every scene. Daniel leaned closer. "That's not you," he said. "That's a rendering." The slideshow kept playing, but I couldn't breathe. Everyone kept sipping champagne. Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a napkin for drama, but Daniel just stared like he was looking at a crime scene. That night, I didn't sleep. And by morning, the world I thought I knew had already started to crumble. Daniel didn't say anything on the drive home. He just kept one hand on the wheel and the other on my knee. And I just stared out the window like the city might explain what just happened. We didn't fight. We didn't speculate. He just parked, led me upstairs, and asked one question. "Do you trust me?" I nodded. Not because I was sure, but because not knowing was worse. He pulled out his old forensic kit, the one he only uses for high-level breaches. Not weddings, not family albums. Then he said something that cracked something deep in me. These weren't just edited. They were rendered by something generative. My mouth went dry, as in AI. He nodded. "But not recent. These files are old, pre-Gen 12 tech. Probably Gen 6 or 7, back when metadata wasn't encrypted." He plugged in the backup drive he had borrowed months ago from my father's office. The one labeled, Family Archive Originals. He cracked the access key in 3 tries. My dad still used the same password he did when I was in high school. V1CTOR1A#123. We opened the first folder. Leona Marek. Dozens of JPEGs. My face in different dresses, different places. Same smile, same exact smile. Daniel clicked on one, froze it, then clicked another, and another, layered them, overlaid facial points, mapped shadows, ran them through his detection software. Same facial render, same coordinates, just different backgrounds, he said. "This is synthetic repetition, no muscle variation, no ambient distortion, just masking." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I felt something snap. "Are you saying my childhood was a template pack?" He didn't answer. Instead, he opened a folder called Unsorted Scan Remains. Inside were raw, uncleaned photo scans. Blurry, dusty, unlabeled, and one of them. There was no me, just 2 adults, my parents, standing in front of a refugee camp gate. smiling, and behind them, a group of children, all blurred. Except one girl, half-shadowed. Holding a red scarf, my blood froze. Daniel zoomed in. My heart did the rest. That wasn't a photo of me, that was a photo before me. "Leona," he said quietly, "that file is dated 4 months before your official adoption certificate." I stared at the screen, breath catching in my throat. So, if that's not me, who was I? Daniel whispered, "Maybe the question is, where were you before you became her?" We sat in silence, just the quiet hum of the computer, the weight of every fake birthday, every photoshopped smile, every lie embedded in pixels. That night we didn't sleep, and by morning we had already decided what to do next. We were going to find out who I really was. I didn't mean to remember her. I didn't even know there was a her. Not in the way you know your neighbor or your childhood pet, but in the way your body knows how to flinch before your brain can explain why. It started with a scent. Not perfume, not cleaner, something else. Oranges, not just the fruit, the peel, bitter, fresh, sun-warmed. The kind of scent that hugs you before hands do. And then it came. Not a flash, not a lightning strike, more like a leak. Slow. Unwelcome, inevitable. I was holding a hand. It was Victoria S. The fingers were soft. One knuckle had a scar, and the voice above me whispered something. Not English. It sounded like singing and sadness, a lullaby with too much truth in it. Then another voice cut through, sharp, flat, American. "That's enough, she's ours now." My eyes snapped open. I was on the floor. Daniel was kneeling beside me. He didn't speak, just reached slowly, hand out like he was approaching a wild animal. I blinked, tears I didn't remember making rolled down my cheek. "I saw her," I said. He waited. "Not Victoria, the real one." He whispered, "What did she say?" And that's when I said it, the sentence that I didn't know I remembered. "If you call her Mama again, you disappear." The air changed. Daniel's face didn't move, but his eyes did. "You heard that." I nodded. My voice was a whisper inside a whisper. I didn't know I knew it, but I did. And then I told him about the coat, the one with missing buttons, the way my little fingers pulled at it, begging not to go, and the pressure, a hand on my shoulder, firm, final, then silence. Not just around me, inside me. Like someone had packed up all the memories and sealed the box with a warning. Never open this. Until now, we stayed on the kitchen floor for what felt like hours, me shaking, him grounding. When I finally stood, the world tilted not physically but morally, because nothing felt true anymore. Not my name, not my story, not even the woman I called Mom for the last 23 years. Daniel sat beside me on the couch, laptop open, fingers typing softly. "You said she spoke another language," he said. "Yeah, I think it was Eastern European, not Russian, softer. Slavic family, maybe," he asked. I nodded. Maybe Serbian, Croatian. He pulled up a phonetic database. I listened to sample clips of lullabies one by one, and then it happened. Clip 4, a woman humming, the same cadence, the same melody, my whole body locked. "That's it," I whispered. "That's her." Daniel looked up. "We're getting closer." I didn't ask what he meant, because I already knew, somewhere out there. Someone had once held me with love that didn't need translation. And now, after 2 decades of silence, my memories had finally started speaking back. We didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't even blink, I think. We just looked, clicked, scanned, searched, through refugee camp archives, through digitized case files from 2 decades ago, through broken links and shuttered NGOs that had once kept records of the disappeared. At 2:14 a.m., Daniel paused. I found something. I leaned in. It was an image file. Grainy, watermarked, dated October 17, 2010. A child, maybe 5, hair darker than mine, face rounder, wearing a red scarf. The same one I remembered pulling in my nightmare. She was standing beside a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in years. But her hands were wrapped around the child like armor. The file name, Zora Mara missing 2010. Daniel exhaled slowly. Her name is Mara. I blinked. My name is Mara. He looked at me. No, their daughter's name was Mara. She went missing at a resettlement checkpoint. The mother filed a report. No follow-up, no arrest, no closure. The next document made my blood freeze. A matching photo appeared in an old sponsor family visa application, but the child's name was different. Leona Marek, age 5, orphan status, confirmed. Daniel read out loud. Photo similarity, 98.6%. Shadow anomalies, 3-face alignment, identical. Leona, he said. You didn't become Mara, you were Mara, they made you Leona. My lungs forgot how to function. All this time, I thought I'd been saved. But what if I'd just been rewritten? Daniel kept digging. He followed a trail from Mara's old camp to a now-defunct social worker agency that had moved to private record storage in Bucharest. And then, a breakthrough, a listing. Current, name, Ivana Zora. Profession, seamstress. Location, Novi Sad, Serbia. He found her Facebook. Sparse, private. Profile picture, a woman in her 50s, dark eyes, tight smile. She hadn't posted in 8 months. Daniel messaged her, translated every word carefully. Hello, I was given your name. I think I might be your daughter. Do you remember a girl named Mara who disappeared in 2010? She wore a red scarf. We hit send and waited. The reply came 4 hours later. Can we talk? The video call was set. 9 a.m. our time. Late afternoon in Serbia, I didn't sleep, didn't shower. Just sat curled in a blanket like the truth might burn me through the screen. When the call connected, her face filled the monitor. Older, worn, but unmistakable. My jawline, my eyes, the same crease in the brow when we concentrate. She covered her mouth. I didn't move. She whispered, Mara. I couldn't speak. I didn't need to. She did. I've been looking for you for 25 years. And just like that, Leona Marek cracked like a shell. And Mara Zora began to breathe again. I invited them to dinner. No announcement. No hint. Just a text. Daniel and I would like to talk, just us 4, tomorrow night. Victoria replied within 3 minutes. Of course, darling. So glad you're coming to us first. But she was wrong. I wasn't coming to them. They were walking straight into me. The table was set, minimalist, white wine, nothing extravagant. Daniel positioned 2 recorders, one discreet on the shelf, one in his watch. I wore red. Not for drama, for the scarf, the one from the photo. The one that once belonged to her. To me, they arrived on time. Victoria kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. Greg shook Daniel's hand like this was a policy meeting. No one mentioned the slideshow. No one asked about the silence since the engagement. They sat. They sipped. And then I said it. I need you to tell me who I was before I became Leona. Victoria blinked. Greg cleared his throat. Darling, we've already been over this. We rescued you from. No. I interrupted. I wasn't in a collapsed building. I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't nameless. I slid a printed photo across the table. Me, or rather Mara, holding Ivana's hand, the red scarf clear, the background, a checkpoint fence. Victoria paled. Greg didn't touch the photo. Daniel leaned forward. This image predates Leona's first registered photo with you by 4 months. Still silence, so I dropped the next one. We found the sponsor visa file, I said. You submitted it with a falsified name and forged orphan status. And you submitted it after Mara Zora was listed as missing. Greg exhaled, slow, practiced. We didn't kidnap you. You erased me. Victoria whispered, we saved you. Daniel stood. You edited her into your photos. You had access to generative image software even back in 2030. You created a digital child that matched your politics, not her truth. Her voice cracked. You don't understand how it was back then. We were trying to get out of the region. They wouldn't process childless couples as quickly, and we wanted a child. We gave her everything. You gave her a cover story, Daniel snapped. And she became extraordinary, Victoria said. I laughed. Not kindly, not bitterly, just hollow. You don't get to take credit for who I became. I built myself on top of the rubble you gave me. Greg finally spoke. Do you want money? I stared at him like he'd just asked me to put my trauma in a spreadsheet. I want the truth, on record, right now. He didn't respond, so I said it for him. You took a missing child, lied on immigration forms, falsified documentation, created AI-generated photos, and built a legacy off a lie you never expected to be challenged. Victoria stood up. You're upset. I stood too, calm. No, I'm aware, and this dinner, it wasn't reconciliation, it was deposition. Daniel hit save on the recorder. That night, we sent the files to 2 places. 1. The FBI's Human Identity Fraud Task Force. 2. The Zora Family Legal Council in Serbia. By morning, the system had moved. 2 investigations opened. 3 immigration documents revoked. And for the first time in 23 years, the version of me they buried. Started digging back. I didn't know what a reckoning would look like. Turns out, it starts with an email. Subject line. Case accepted. USCIS/identity suppression and immigration fraud. No confetti, no fireworks, just a case number, a file number, and a promise that this time, truth has jurisdiction. The investigation moved fast. Faster than we expected. Once we turned over the documents, the visa forms, the side-by-side image analysis, the voice recordings from the dinner, and most of all, the live statement from Ivana Zora confirming my abduction. The government didn't blink. They froze 3 of Greg Merck's accounts, flagged Victoria's medical license, issued subpoenas for archived campaign donations linked to the Merck Human Relief Foundation. And the press, they swarmed, CNN. Power couple accused of abducting refugee child to fast-track U.S. immigration. The Guardian. American humanitarians or identity thieves. The case of the digital daughter. Vice. How AI helped a stolen child find her real name and bury her fake one. Victoria went silent. Greg denied everything. Until the original camp entry logs surfaced, with my fingerprints, my date of birth, my real name. Mara Zora. They tried to settle. Greg's attorney sent a letter. Our clients acknowledge administrative inconsistencies and offer $4.5 million for defamation withdrawal. Daniel read it out loud and then, without flinching, fed it into the shredder. I didn't want silence money. I wanted history corrected. 3 weeks later, it was official. U.S. citizenship revoked for both Victoria and Greg Merck. Deportation order signed under the International Child Recovery Act. Ban on re-entry, permanent. All government honors rescinded. Their names erased from the institutions they helped build. Even the university removed the Merck Lecture Series banner overnight. No press conference. No cameras. Just the sound of a wall collapsing digitally, legally, morally. Nas stayed. Of course she did. She was born here. She wasn't part of the lie, at least not by choice. At first, she didn't speak. Then one night, she showed up at our door with 2 coffees and a sentence. That was really messed up. Not an apology, but a start. We talked. About growing up in a house full of gaslight and garnish. She wasn't my sister by blood, but she knew how I took my coffee, and that counted for something. Meanwhile, Ivana applied for resettlement, family reunification, expedited. Daniel and I handled the paperwork. She arrived 6 months later with nothing but a suitcase, a scarf, and a cake she made herself. She hugged me at the airport, not like someone meeting their child, but like someone remembering. And this time, no one pulled me away. Freedom didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like folding laundry. In a home where I chose the color of the walls, it felt like my real name. Mara. Printed on a library card. On a bakery receipt. On a new passport that didn't lie. I kept the red scarf, framed it, didn't wash it, not because of the fabric, but because of what it carried. A thread that outlived lies, a truth that didn't rot. Ivana lives 5 blocks away now. She got a job at a little cafe that reminds her of the one she worked at when she was 20. Before everything shattered, before they took me, she never calls me Leona. Not even once. She calls me by the name she whispered the night I was born. Mojamara. My Mara, and every time I hear it, my spine straightens like it remembers it belonged to someone real. Daniel and I still live in the same apartment. He added another lock, not out of fear, but ritual. He still watches me the way he did that night at the slideshow, with the eyes of someone who sees the whole picture. Not just the parts that were placed there. We're planning a wedding. Not for spectacle, for reset. Ivana cried when we handed her the invitation, not because it was fancy, but because this time she was on the guest list. I was once a curated product, an edited daughter, a performance in beige lighting. Now I wake up and feel the gravity of realness, of love without terms, of identity that doesn't need defending. Victoria and Greg, I don't know where they are, I don't look, I don't hate, I just don't care. Because they built a legacy on a lie. And when it collapsed, I didn't feel guilty, I felt free. Some people say healing is forgiveness. For me, healing was reclamation of my name, of my voice, of my mother, of me. And if you're still wondering whether I went too far, let me put it like this. I didn't burn the house down, I just turned the lights on. And finally, I walked out, carrying only what was mine.